back to Unladylike Opinions. This is Our Kind of People, Season 1, Episode 7, Fathers, Daughters, and Sisters. Okay, so the episode starts off, with Teddy, dreaming, because he's in the hospital under, he's under anesthesia or whatever. Well, not anesthesia, he sleep. He had a heart attack, basically. So he's dreaming or whatever, like they always get the characters to do. And he's dreaming that he's meeting back up with, his brother that died. And, he's telling his brother how much, he misses him. And then you see him start hyperventilating, and he slumps down to the ground. And he tells Lewis that his heart hurts. And, then we get a flashback of them working on him in the hospital. And then we see them in the waiting room, and Angie telling Nikki that she didn't want to tell her about her father like this. And she said, she was like, when she went to visit him in prison, Nikki was like, prison? And Angie was like, he a good man. He a good man, Savannah. She didn't say that. But Nikki said, I'm glad you think so, because I have no plans on finding out. And she runs off, and Nate walks up, and she run clean past him. And, he goes to Angie, and, he tells her, he apologized for it coming out like this. And, she tells him it was okay and they'll figure it out. And she was like, I'm happy that you are free. And he said, for Teddy not to know me and he does this for me, not to know that the circumstances between me and you, and he does this speaks to how much he cares about you, Lies. And he tells Angie he was gonna go. He was like, I'm gonna just go. And she asked if he had a place to stay, and he a place to stay. And she said, he said Teddy was letting him stay on his compound until he gets himself situated. And I'm like, he ain't just letting you stay there. He got a motive. So then the doctor comes out, and, Leah runs clean over, and then Angie comes right beside her, and the doctor said that, and Angie was like, what's going on? And the doctor said, he suffered a mild heart attack, and Leah asked to talk to the doctor privately, and the doctor was going to talk to her private, but Angie just zoom her way on in there like, yeah, what's up? I'm the daughter too. So Angie was like, do you know what caused this? Just took all over. And she said that he had lesions around his heart, and in his blood work it shows that he might have over medicated to hide his Parkinson's symptoms. And Angie was looking like Parkinson's. So they go in and they go see him in his hospital room. And Angie asks Leah, why you didn't tell me that he had Parkinson's? And Leah said, why should I have to? And Angie was like, that's not what I meant. And Leah was like, I'm sorry. This is a lot. I haven't even told Raymond about it yet. And she said, Teddy didn't want anyone to know about it. And it's important that no one knows about it because, it could have a damning consequences on Franklin Holdings and of course his legacy. And Angie, was like, I'm not gonna say anything. And Leah leaves Angie alone to sit with Teddy. And she tells Teddy, I just lost her mama. I just lost my mama. I can't lose you too because we have unfinished business and you owe me. And I'm like, owe you? Like, wonder what that's about. So Leah and her family, they arrive at home and all the press are there. And one press person in particular, the ex, Alex, and she asked, how Teddy was doing after having a heart attack. And Leah looking like, what? How you know that? And she said, Leah was like, of course she bossed up and lied real quick. She said, he's fine. And if he wasn't, she wouldn't be at home. And Alex gonna say, you'd be here if you was trying to cover up something. And Raymond tells everybody they need to leave before he put them all out, escort them off his property. And Leah said, how is she waiting outside of our door, all in our business, and how she know my father had a heart attack? Leah, because your husband was with her when he got the news when you called. Keep up. And so, Leah said she gonna get to the bottom of it. What is this? She gonna get to the bottom of it, and of why Alex is really here. And over at Eve's Crown, Tyrique is waiting on Angie, and when she come in, and he was just checking on her, and she said Teddy is stable, and he was like, and she was like, and Nick is still not talking to me. And I'm like, girl, she ain't gonna talk to you for a minute. So he said, well, she got a lot to digest, and he says, he can help out, but he can't help, but he can't help but feel responsible for Teddy being in the hospital, because he went and asked him, about what happened with his father. So he tells Angie that he finds out that his father committed suicide. And he was like, I know my father. That's just not his character. He would not do that. So she was like, well, what you gonna do about it? And he said, he was gonna talk to some people that really know him and that was close to him. And, then we see Leah. She's telling her son, where to park at, because all the press out there, out there all around or whatever. And she was like, I'm so proud of him for, staying the night at the hospital with Teddy. And she said she was telling him how to avoid the press, and she was like, cause your ex might be out there lurking. And she was like, it seemed like she got it out for us. And is she jealous? Like, what is it? And Raymond was like, she just angry because our parents paid her off to leave him alone. And he was like, and I just found out about it. And he was like, I was gonna tell you. She was like, but you didn't. But Leah said, now I got to deal with your baggage and her feelings. She was like, I'm gonna call a press conference in the morning. And I'm gonna feed that piranha on her own terms. And if that bitch wanna fight, I'm gonna shove it down her throat. And I said, all right, Leah, about time, girl. Get gutter with it. So then we see Angie driving up over at Teddy's compound or whatever, and the press all over her car, whatever. Baby, they would have got ran over fooling with me. I can't see no way. And I would have blamed it on my eyesight. So then you see her showing up with bags of food for Nate, and they sitting down talking. I'm like, where the food at? Did y'all eat first or something? I don't know. So she was like, she tells Nate, she happy that he's out, and she was like, despite what she says, Nikki needs him, and he said, that if she hadn't been born, he wouldn't have survived prison. He was like, the visits from your mother, she encouraged me. She kept me in the loop about everything about Nikki, and that what kept me alive in there. And Angie said she should have told Nikki about him, and he said, you did what you needed to do, and, I respect it. And she noticed that there's some pillows on the floor, and she was like, is that where you sleeping on the floor? And he said, that's how he is conditioned or whatever. I guess he been sleeping on concrete beds for so long that sleeping on a regular bed doesn't feel right to him. So he said, he grew out his locks because they couldn't take that away from him, and that was the only pure freedom he had left of himself. And out of spite and anger, being away from Angie and Nikki for 17 years, and his locks is 17 years of new growth to remind him of the pain that he put Nikki and Angie through. So then you see them on the beach with a fire burning, and she's helping him, where she's cutting his locks, and she said, I'm gonna help you shed the pain. And there, as she's cutting the locks, he's putting them in a bag. And she said, and she's talking to the ancestors or whatever. And he puts the stuff in the bag and he throws it in a fire. And she, curls his hair and all that or whatever, and twist it up or whatever. And I'm like, good Lord, that bad fire. And he gives Angie his journals and says this is his whole life. He wants Nikki to read them. So, you see Angie go talk to Nikki, and Nikki is lying in her bed crying, and she said she knows she can't take it. She knows she can't take it right. She can't make it. I don't know why I put take. She was like, I know I can't make it right, but let me explain it. And she said Nikki was 8 months old when Nate went to prison, and she was like, he loved Nikki more than anything. And she said he is more than his mistakes. He's a poet and he's an artist just like you. And she said she doesn't want Nikki to miss out on knowing her father like she did. Nikki said, I thought you didn't like Teddy. And she said, he is still my father, and I let my anger close me off to him, and I don't want that to be the same for you. And she said she the one that kept Nate away. He always wanted to see Nikki. And she said she was trying to protect her. Nikki said you was trying to protect your feelings, your own self. or whatever, like you always do. And I was like, damn, Angie. So Nikki was like, I needed my father, not protection, and all of you lied to me. Mama Eve, Aunt Piggy, all of y'all lied to me my entire life. And she was like, can you leave my room? And Angie gets up and leave Nate's journey on the bed before she goes. And I was like, what, you want to leave nothing? So Angie walking into the living room, and Aunt Piggy is watching TV, and then we hear on the news that Aunt Piggy was like, Leah holding a press conference. And Leah on TV just lying, talking about Teddy is strong as ever, and their stadium project is still on track. And then here come Alice. I'm like, ugh, I'm sick of her already. So she asked the question talking about she heard Teddy was taken to the hospital by Tyrique Chapman and an ex-con named Nate Robinson. And Angie looked mouth open and wide and was like, I know she lied. And she was like, how he fit in the equation? Leah said he doesn't, and he has no bearings. And Alex is still talking, saying they want to know more about a convicted felon who is wanted on accessory to murder. Not wanted. He's not already did his time. He is out. He ain't wanted, girl. Why you playing? So, and Nikki is standing right there, and, they don't notice that she's standing back there. Well, she's standing back there where Aunt Piggy and Angie is, they on TV. So Leah said they are committed to seeing a change in the world, so started with prison, and that's started with prison reform. And Alice got, so much more to say, and she said, does your father commitment to social justice go beyond family members? Because isn't Nate your sister's baby daddy? And Leah said, I'm not answering that any more questions. And then here go Nikki saying, accessory to murder. Then she walks off, and Angie calling her name, and Nikki still flying away like she always do. Nikki always running off like, girl, sit still for a second. So Angie said it's one thing for her to come at Leah or even me, but what she not gonna do is come for my baby girl. And I'm like, okay, time for them claws to come out. So Leah tell Alex that that's twice you came for me without any repercussions, and you won't be lucky the third time. And Alex says, are you threatening me, Leah? She said, Miss Franklin DuPont to you. And I'm like, okay, girl. She twirls her ring around like, bitch, I'm the wife now. You ain't the wife no more. So I was like, Leah, finally getting this wench together, finally. So then you see Angie, she rolls up to Teddy's hospital room, and she was like, where that Alice bitch at? I need to holler at her. I'm just lying. She ain't say that or whatever. And she said, Alice made a mistake mentioning Nate and coming for my baby girl, and I'm not having it. And Leah said, she is relentless, but, I could use some backup. Hold up, something under my foot. So Angie said she messed up with the wrong one this time, and then you hear them calling a cold blue. Teddy is in cardiac arrest. And as they are working on him, we see a flash of him and his brother at his dad's funeral. And his brother tells Teddy that he was the beneficiary of all the mistakes that their father made with him, and those mistakes may have strengthened him, but it never made him his favorite. So Teddy was the favorite child. And Teddy said he's not ready for it to be the end. And he's not ready for it to be the end of him. And then we flash back. We go right back to where they working on him, and he's in surgery. So then we see Lauren crying as, Raymond is coming down the stairs, and, he runs down to her, and she tells him they're rushing Teddy into emergency surgery. And she says she is scared, and that's when, you hear Nate creeping around, and they turn around and see him, and he said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to impose. The cook said she left a sandwich for me in the kitchen. And Lauren tells him, your haircut is nice. And she's smiling extra hard. I was like, Lauren, I thought you was gay, but never mind. And she said, and he said it was time for a change. And he was like, I'm sorry about Teddy. He is a nice man, and I'm going to pray for him. And he tells Lauren, what she has with her dad is special, and he hopes the one day had it with Nikki. And Raymond tells him he doesn't have to tiptoe around the house. He is a guest, make yourself at home. And then you see the head of all the workers at the Teddy's establishment. She tells all the other workers, how to respond when they are asked about Teddy, and everything should run as usual. or whatever. So then Tyrique goes up to her and he said he has a question to ask her about his father, because he learned that his father didn't die the way that he thought he did. And she tells him he had a friend named Darius that knew him better than anybody. And he was like, oh, okay, so where can I find him? And he was like, and she was like, oh, he dead. I'm like, you could say that the first, like, why would you bring him up and he dead? Like, girl, so so she said, but he did have a girlfriend back then, and her name is Patricia Vaughn. And when I tell you, my eyes lit up like, say what now? Ain't that Piggy name? And she was like, Aunt Piggy holds more secrets than a grave. And I'm like, girl, who you telling? I said the same thing. So Alex and Raymond are in the car and they just arguing like they still together. And she was like, he tells her, you went too far. And I'm like, nah, player, you called her here. This what you wanted, right? And Alex said, I didn't get this far by being soft, Raymond. So she was like, you asked me to help destroy Teddy, which one is it? He said, Teddy. I asked you to destroy Teddy, get information on Teddy, not my wife. And Alex says, they are one and the same. And I was like, well, she ain't lying. She was like, when you gonna get that through your head? And Raymond said he only want his company back, not his wife getting hurt in the process while her father is on his deathbed. And Alex said, let me do what I came here to do. Get dirt on Teddy. You get your company back and I get me a good story. It's a win-win. She started rubbing on his arm and stuff and said, if it was you in that hospital bed, Teddy would take what was his and wouldn't hesitate. Well, she ain't lying. And she was like, Teddy and your mom conspired to steal our life. And then she kisses him and he pulls back. And was like, when he pulled back after he did kiss her back. I don't care what he said. He pulled back though. And he said, I love my wife. And he gets out the car and say, we done. But Angie sees all this. And I'm like, oh, snap. And so, you see, Lauren comes over to see Nikki. And she asks, was she okay? And Nikki was like, she was like, as much as I can be. And Nikki was like, asked her how was Teddy, and she said Teddy is in surgery. And she said she had to take a walk to clear her head. And she tells Nikki, I met your dad. I met Nate. And she was like, he seems cool. And she tells her that they are not in the same situation, but she can't see herself not having a relationship with her daddy. Me neither. And Lauren said her father is the most important relationship in her life. And she was like, I hope my mom never finds this out, but he's the most important thing to me. And she said it's hard to explain. She was like, you have a chance to have the same thing, so take it. And Nikki said she has his journals, and she guessed he wanted her to read his thoughts and read his truth, but she's afraid to read it. And Lauren was like, you want me to read it? And she picks up the journal and she started reading it to Nikki. And as she's speaking, and he is explaining how hard it was to leave her when he went to prison. And Nikki started crying, and she realized that it was about her. And then you see Alex outside the hospital, and she noticed one of the doctors pulling up. I don't know if he was a doctor or a attendee or what, but he pulls up and she noticed that he has a Howard University sticker on the back of his car. And she rolls over there and was like, HU, and he was like, or whatever. And she was like, he was like, I never knew you went to Howard University. Can I get your autograph? And she said, I'll do you one better. I'll take a selfie. But, at first, can you tell me about Teddy's condition? And I'm like, here we go. But then we flash over to, Aunt Piggy fixing herself a little drink when Tyrique shows up. And I'm like, okay, he here to blow her high. She finna lose that high real quick. So he asks her about Darius Bates. And when I tell you, her face cracked in, but she played the play and was like, I don't know him. She was like, I dated a whole lot of men back then. And he said, I thought there was a connection, but maybe I was wrong. And she said, I'll probably be asleep when Edge come in, but I will tell her that you stopped by. And he leaves, and I'm like, And when he leaves, she dropped that mug to the ground, baby. And I'm like, caught. And she said, we see Teddy back on the beach with his brother, and he tells him the pain he feels is from his past and maybe your present. And Teddy said he didn't have all this discomfort until Angela Vaughn came into his life. And Lewis said, Vaughn, I know that name all too well. I remember Eve. Is she the mother? And he was like, yeah, she's the mother, and Angie's the daughter, so she's my daughter. And he said, he asked Teddy, did he know about Angie? And of course he was like, and he was like, I knew the answer to that question. And he said, let me guess, you kept her a secret, and now that secret has a face and wants to be heard. And Teddy said, don't judge me. You don't know my life, Lewis. And Lewis was like, I know 3 sacrifices you had made in your life. Eve, your child, and me. We're all sacrifices of your arrogance. Teddy said, I own my mistake. Boy, whatever. And so he said, I built a stadium with your name on it. And Lewis was like, none of that erases the truth that you were running from. And Teddy said, we done here. And Lewis like, there is no way we are done. And Teddy tells him to go to hell. And I'm like, you gonna meet him there. And so the doctors close Teddy up after the surgery is finished. And then we see Raymond getting in the elevator with Leah and Angie. And as soon as them elevator doors close, Angie asks Raymond, was he the leak that tells Alex news about the family? And Leah was like, what? And she was like, what is she talking about? And Raymond was like, what? And that's when Angie, bloop, 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 like Solange'd him up in that elevator, boy, like Solange did Jay-Z. Like Angie was that little sister that day, baby. And she said, I saw you in the car with Alex and you kissed her. And Leah said, is this true? You was with her? And he said, you don't know the whole story. Angie said, I may have beef with your wife. But I've watched her hold it together while you out here making out with some hoe in the parking lot with that woman that's trying to hurt your family. And she kicked his ass. And I was like, what the hell? Like, Angie straight went beast mode on Raymond. Or whatever. And he telling her to relax. And Leah jumps in. And Raymond said he was trying to get Alex to, leave. And he was trying to get Alex to leave. And Angie was like, she needs to watch. He tells Angie she needs to watch what she say. And he tries to explain to Leah. And she tells him she can't have him in the hospital right now. She was like, you got to go, bro. And the doctor, then you see the doctor that Alex was talking to, he come in and he was like, your father is out of surgery and he is weak and they gonna have to wait to see if he gonna be okay. So Leah walks into the hospital room and sees Angie asleep in the chair at Teddy's bedside, and she wakes her up with the smell of coffee, and she was like, I want to thank you for yesterday. And she was like, I want to thank you again for staying here with, Dad. And Angie said, she surprised herself. Her feelings for Teddy is still complicated, but she didn't want her sitting there by herself. She didn't want Leah sitting there by herself. Leah said, she liked being the only child growing up and getting all the attention, but the last few days she's grateful she didn't have to go through this alone. And they start holding hands, and Leah starts praying that, Teddy make it through. And while she's praying, after she finished, Teddy wakes up and was like, I guess he heard you. And, Angie said she tells him she was happy he's awake. And she was like, I'm going to give y'all some space. And Leah grabs her and was like, no. And Teddy looked at them and he was like, my girls. And I'm like, boy, I wonder, is this going to make you have a change of heart? I doubt it. So Angie said, then you see Nikki reading the journals that Nate left her when Angie walks in and tell her that Teddy is awake, but they need to talk. And Nikki was like, how is he doing? And Angie said, and she asked Angie how she was doing, and she was like, I didn't realize how I felt until I saw him lying in that hospital. And she asked Nikki if she was learning anything from the journals, and Nikki said so much of it sounds like her, like they never met each other, they never was together, but he knows her so well. And she asked Angie how he get in jail for that, like for the accessory to murder. And she tells her he was trying to provide for his family. He was just a year older than you. He was 18. He got caught stealing some stuff from his job. A security guard got shot a security job. Lord, girl, a security guard was shot, but he did not pull the trigger, but he was there. And Angie said she almost lost her father, and that made her want to get to know him more. And Nikki said, what about Mama Eve and him walking out on you? And she said, life isn't that simple, but she knows what's in her heart. And Nikki said she wants to get to know Nate. And Raymond is still pleading his case with Leah and said everything he has done has been for her and her kids, this family. And he asked Alex, he was like, I asked Alex to come help me to get Darman back. And whatever Angela saw is not accurate. And Leah said, so you never kissed her? And before he can even answer, the news come on and it's Alex. And she said she was once married to Raymond DuPont, despite her connection with something like that. She was like, but when something like that affects the financial world, it's her duty to report it. And she said it's been confirmed that Teddy is suffering from Parkinson's disease. My bad, dang on telemarketers. Well, she said, she was like, they find out, she can confirm that Teddy is suffering from Parkinson's disease. And Leah looks at Raymond like, oh, you bitch, you. And I'm like, but Raymond didn't know, did it? I don't remember Leah telling Raymond, because she said in the hospital that she hadn't told Raymond yet. Maybe we didn't see it or something. And I'm like, I don't know. And Leah, tells Raymond, pack you a bag and get out tonight. And then we see Aunt Piggy sneaking down the stairs with her suitcase, and they flash to a little note that she wrote saying that she's going back home and she gonna be gone for a while. And if you need me, call me. And I'm like, Aunt Piggy said, no sir, not today. Y'all ain't finna get these secrets. So Nate outside on the beach reading when Nikki and Andrew show up, and Andrew introduces them to each other, and he asks Nikki if they can go take a walk or whatever, and they walk and have a little conversation or whatever. And then you see Teddy in the hospital listening to Alex discuss his health issues, and he gets a visit from Lewis, a little flash in his head, and Lewis is saying all your demons caught up with him. Am I crazy? Did they have Lewis this time with the gunshot wound in the middle of his forehead? I was like, what the hell? I gotta go back and see. And he was like, you can't hide from the truth forever. And Teddy is shook it. And that was the end of the episode. Next week look like next 2 weeks, because it won't be back for 2 weeks. It's going to be really good, seem like it, or whatever. But that was my review of Our Kind of People. It's still, exciting episodes full of all types of juicy stuff. So I will get back with you guys in 2 weeks, since they said it won't be back for 2 weeks. So I will get with you guys in 2 weeks. With this episode or whatever. And like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.